My name is Sophie. I'm 28. 6 months ago, I thought I had the kind of marriage my friends complained they'd never find. The kind you see in movies that make you roll your eyes because it feels too perfect to be real. Now I'm sitting in a half-empty apartment that echoes with every breath I take. And somehow I'm the villain in my own story. I'm still trying to pinpoint the exact moment everything started to unravel. When Noah and I first got married, it was electric. I mean, the man was obsessed with me. And I loved it. I soaked it up like a dying plant in the rain. He'd tell me I was beautiful every morning, even when my hair was a mess and I had sleep in my eyes. He'd leave little notes on the bathroom mirror. He'd text me in the middle of the day just to say he was thinking about the curve of my smile. And the way he touched me, God, it was everything. He couldn't walk past me in the kitchen without his hand finding my waist or playfully smacking my butt. If I was washing dishes, he'd come up behind me, wrap his arms around me, and kiss that sensitive spot right below my ear. Just a simple hug would do it. I'd feel his body respond to me, instantly. He'd get worked up, visibly. You know what I mean. At first, I felt powerful, desired. My friend, Amelia, used to get this look on her face when I'd mention it over brunch. Must be nice, she'd say, stirring her latte with a little too much force. Greg barely looks up from his phone when I walk into a room naked. I'd laugh, feeling smug. I felt special. I had this incredible, handsome man, a physical therapist, for God's sake, who spent his days fixing other people's bodies, and all he wanted was to be close to mine. 3 years in, and he still acted like a teenager with his first crush. But then, life happened. It wasn't one big thing. It was 1,000 little cuts. A new, high-pressure project at my marketing firm. My boss breathing down my neck. Deadlines that seemed to move closer every time I blinked. Then my mom got sick. Nothing life-threatening, but a diagnosis that required tests, appointments, and a constant, humming baseline of worry in the back of my mind. I was exhausted. Just depleted. My social battery was dead. My emotional reserves were empty. All I wanted at the end of the day was to crawl onto the couch and disappear into some mindless TV show. And that's when his touch started to feel different. It wasn't a comfort anymore. It was a pressure. Every hug felt like a prelude. Every kiss on the neck was a question. His physical response, the one I used to brag about, now felt like a demand. Like my body was a switch, and just being near me flipped it on for him, whether I wanted it to or not. We'd be sitting on the couch, my head on his chest, and within minutes, I could feel it. That familiar tension in his body. Him shifting slightly. It was like he couldn't just hold his wife. He had to want his wife. Constantly. I started to pull away in small ways. A quick peck at the door instead of a real kiss. Sitting on the other end of the sofa. He didn't seem to get the hint. Or maybe he did, and just thought he could love me through it. He'd keep trying, being the same affectionate, attentive husband he'd always been. Around that time, I started talking more with Leo at work. He was in the graphic design department, a few desks down from me. He was quiet, thoughtful. He had this calm energy that felt like a cool balm on my frazzled nerves. We started getting coffee together. He'd listen, really listen. When I talked about the stress with my mom, his eyes were full of sympathy. When I complained about my boss, he'd make a quiet, witty joke that would make me laugh for the first time all day. He never touched me, not even a hand on the arm. His attention was purely intellectual, emotional, and it felt like such a relief. One Tuesday, I had the worst day of my career. We lost a major client. My boss made it very clear it was my fault. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 10 minutes, just trying not to cry, texting Leo about the whole disaster. "That's brutal," he wrote back instantly. "Your boss is an idiot. You're the most talented person in that office." His words were a lifeline. I drove home feeling raw, wounded. All I wanted was a hot shower and a silent room. When I walked in, Noah knew instantly. He always did. He took one look at my face, took my bag from my hand, and just said, "Don't worry about dinner. I've got it." He made my favorite pasta. He didn't push me to talk. He just let me exist. After we ate, I collapsed on the couch. The tension was still coiled in my shoulders like tight little snakes. He came over and started massaging my neck, and for a minute, it was perfect. His hands were strong and sure. He knew exactly where to press. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes, finally feeling a sliver of relaxation. He leaned down, his lips brushing against my neck. His hands moved from my shoulders down my arms, his touch becoming a caress. And then I felt it. His body pressed against the back of the couch. That familiar, insistent response. Something inside me just snapped. All the stress from work, the worry about my mom, the weeks of feeling pressured and overwhelmed, it all came boiling to the surface. I whipped my head around. My voice was sharp, colder than I even intended. Can't you touch me for once without making it about sex? He froze. His hands dropped from my arms. It's desperata, Noah. It's like you can't control yourself. End quote. The word hung in the air between us. Desperate. I saw the light in his eyes just go out. It was like I'd slapped him. He stepped back, his face a complete blank. For a second, there was only silence. Then he said, his voice quiet, hollow, I can't help that I'm attracted to my wife. But I was too worked up, too wrapped up in my own misery to hear him. Well, figure it out, I snapped. Because I'm tired of it. He just stared at me for a long moment. He wasn't angry. He looked broken, processing something painful. Okay, he said finally. His voice was flat. I understand. He turned and went to our bedroom. Alone, I sat on that couch, my heart pounding. A part of me felt justified, vindicated. But another part, a small, quiet part, felt sick to my stomach. I knew I'd been cruel. He was just loving me, and I had called his love desperate. But I was too proud, too tired to go and apologize. Besides, I thought, a small, selfish part of me. Maybe now, he'll finally give me some space. I had no idea. I had just pushed the button on a self-destruct sequence I could never hope to stop. That night, the space I thought I wanted felt like a chasm. Noah stayed on his side of the bed, a rigid, unmoving line of territory. Usually, even if we were annoyed with each other, he'd find me in his sleep, an arm draped over my waist, a leg tangled with mine. But that night, there was nothing. Just cold sheets between us. When I woke up, he was already in the bathroom. The shower was running. By the time I came into the kitchen, he was dressed for work, pouring coffee into a travel mug. No good morning kiss. No lingering hug. Have a good day, he said, his eyes not quite meeting mine. And then he was gone. I told myself it was fine. He was just hurt. He was processing. He'd get over it. Men are simple, I thought. He'll be back to his old self by the weekend. But he wasn't. The change wasn't gradual. It was absolute. A switch had been flipped. Noah went from being the man who couldn't keep his hands off me to a man who barely made physical contact at all. The random hugs stopped. The butt slaps in the kitchen vanished. When we watched TV, he'd sit in the armchair across from me, not next to me on the couch. If I initiated a goodbye kiss in the morning, he'd give me a quick, chaste peck, a cousin's kiss. There was no warmth, no lingering, nothing that could possibly be misinterpreted as desire, nothing that could be called desperate. And for the first week, I'll admit it, it was a relief. Finally, I could walk through my own home without being a trigger for my husband's libido. I could get a hug that was just a hug. I could exist without feeling that constant, low-level sexual hum. It was exactly what I thought I wanted. At work, I leaned even more heavily on Leo. He became my refuge. He's still giving you the silent treatment? He texted me after I told him about the fight. It's not even silent, I wrote back, sitting at my desk. It's worse. It's polite, like we're roommates. He's being childish, Leo replied. You were stressed. You're allowed to have a bad day. He should be comforting you, not punishing you. Hearing him say it made me feel so validated. See? I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the villain. Noah was the one overreacting. He was the one being immature. I was the one juggling a demanding job and a sick mother. I was the one who deserved sympathy. My lunches with Leo became a daily ritual. We'd sit in the little park across from our office building, and I would unload all my frustrations. He'd listen, nodding, his intelligent eyes full of understanding. It's like he doesn't understand emotional intimacy, I said one afternoon, picking at my salad. For him, everything is physical. If he's not touching me, he doesn't know how to connect. Some people are like that, Leo said gently. But you need more. You deserve more. His validation was like a drug. It made me feel seen. It made me feel right. At home, the politeness continued. It was maddening. One evening, I was at the sink, and he walked past me to get a glass of water. The old Noah would have wrapped his arms around my waist from behind. The old Noah would have whispered something flirty in my ear. This Noah just said, "Excuse me," as he reached around me for the cabinet. It felt so sterile, so formal. I finally tried to talk to him about it. "Why are you acting like this?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. He didn't even look up from the book he was reading. "Like what?" Like you don't want to touch me. You're being so cold." He finally closed his book, marking his page carefully. He looked at me, and his expression wasn't angry. It was just tired. "Sophie," he said, his voice calm and logical, "you told me my physical reaction to you was desperate. You said you were tired of it. I'm just respecting that. I don't want to make you uncomfortable." I wanted to scream. He was using my own words against me, twisting them into this cold, rational shield. "That's ridiculous," I said. "I didn't mean you should stop touching me completely." But my body's reaction is something that happens naturally when I'm close to you," he explained, as if he were discussing a weather pattern. "I can't control it. So, the only logical solution is to avoid the situations that cause it." He sounded so reasonable. So damn reasonable. And it made me feel like I was the crazy one. I was the one who had created this new set of rules, and now I was angry that he was following them perfectly. The wall between us grew higher every day, and it was built with the bricks I had given him. By the end of the first month, the relief was a distant memory. Now, there was just an ache. A hollow space in our home that used to be filled with his warmth. I started to notice all the little things that were gone. The way he used to pull me back into bed for 5 more minutes in the morning. The way his hand would find mine under the table at a restaurant. The way he looked at me like I was the most incredible thing he'd ever seen. That look was gone. Now he looked at me with a polite, placid kindness. The way you'd look at a coworker. Or a distant relative. I was starving. I was starving for a touch that meant something. For a look that held heat. And I was the one who had sent all the food away. I started to try. To test the boundaries of this new, cold world we lived in. One Friday night, I put on a silk slip I knew he loved. I cooked his favorite steak. I lit candles. I was determined to break through that wall of his. He came home and smiled politely. "This is nice, Sophie. Thank you." We ate dinner, making small talk about our week. It felt like a first date with a stranger. After dinner, I sat next to him on the couch, my knee brushing against his. He didn't pull away. But he didn't lean in, either. He just sat there, perfectly still. "Are you just going to punish me forever?" I finally asked, the frustration bubbling over. He turned to look at me, his face impassive. "I'm not punishing you. I'm respecting your boundaries." "My boundaries?" I nearly shrieked. "I'm sitting here in lingerie, Noah. What about my boundaries now?" "I don't want to presume," he said, his voice maddeningly level. "The last time I did, you called me desperate. I won't make that mistake again. If you want something, you need to be explicit." I was floored. He wanted me to, what? Seduce him like a stranger? Spell out every single step? The spontaneity, the passion that had defined us, was gone. Replaced by procedure, by logic. I felt a surge of anger, followed by a wave of shame. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to say the words. It felt too humiliating. So I just got up and went to bed, alone. And that's when I started to notice other things. His phone, which used to be left lying around anywhere, was now always in his pocket, or face down on the nightstand. He started working late more often. A big project, he'd say vaguely. He joined a gym that was on the other side of town, even though there was a perfectly good 1-2 blocks from our apartment. Better equipment was his only explanation. A cold knot of fear started to form in my stomach. This wasn't just about him being hurt anymore. This was something else. He was building a life that had less and less of me in it. I told Leo about it over lunch. "It's emotional blackmail, is what it is," he said, his brow furrowed with concern for me. "He's manipulating you because you were honest about your feelings." "But what if it's more than that?" I whispered, the fear finally spilling out. "What if he's seeing someone?" Leo reached across the table and, for the first time, covered my hand with his. His skin was warm. His touch was gentle, reassuring. Nothing like Noah's insistent, passionate grip used to be. "Hey," he said softly. "Don't jump to the worst conclusion. He's probably just trying to find a way to deal with his hurt feelings. But he's going about it all wrong. He's hurting you in the process. His touch, his words, They were exactly what I needed to hear. It wasn't my fault. It was Noah's. He was the one being cruel. He was the one pushing me away. That night, I tried again. I got into his side of the bed and pressed myself against his back, wrapping an arm around his chest. For a moment, he was still. Then, he gently took my arm and moved it away. "Sophie," he said, his back still to me. "I'm really tired. I have an early start tomorrow." It was a rejection so soft, so polite, that it felt sharper than any shout. I retreated to my side of the bed, the cold sheets feeling like ice against my skin. And for the first time, I didn't just feel unwanted. I felt like maybe he was getting what he wanted from somewhere else. Suspicion is an acid. It eats away at everything. At trust. At reason. At peace. My days became a blur of obsessive thoughts. I'd be in a marketing meeting, pretending to listen to statistics, but in my head, I was replaying every polite, distant conversation with Noah, every vague explanation for where he'd been. I started to snoop. I hate that I did it. It felt shameful beneath me. But the not knowing was worse. The not knowing was a poison, and I felt like I was going crazy. It started small, checking his jacket pockets when he was in the shower. Nothing. Just receipts from the gas station, a crumpled grocery list. Then I moved on to his car. I tore it apart one Saturday when he was at his new gym. I looked under the seats, in the glove compartment. Nothing. It was cleaner than it had ever been. The paranoia grew. Was he being careful? Was he smart enough to cover his tracks? The final frontier was his phone. It was the one thing he kept close. The one thing that felt like a locked black box of his new life. I knew his passcode. It was our anniversary. Or, it used to be. One night, after he'd fallen asleep, a deep, untroubled sleep that I envied, I crept out of bed. My hands were shaking. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I picked up his phone from the nightstand. I typed in the code. Invalid passcode. My blood ran cold. He had changed it. He had changed our anniversary. I stood there in the dark, staring at the screen, a sick feeling roiling in my stomach. It was true. It was all true. He had a secret. He had a life he was deliberately locking me out of. I tried again. His birthday. My birthday. Nothing. Then, a desperate guess. I typed in the date his mother had passed away years ago. The phone unlocked. A wave of nausea hit me. He had replaced us with a memory of loss. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone steady. I opened his messages. My eyes scanned the list. Coworkers, his brother, a group chat for his fantasy football league. And then I saw it. A name I didn't recognize. Chloe. The message thread was long. Weeks and weeks of it. I started scrolling up, my thumb moving frantically. It wasn't just flirtation. It was intimacy. Chloe, how was your day? Noah. Long. Had a tough client with a rotator cuff injury. But I'm glad it's over. Chloe, you're so good at what you do. You help people. Don't ever forget that. Noah. Thanks, Chloe. It means a lot to hear that right now. He was talking to her. About his day. About his feelings. The things he hadn't talked to me about in months. I kept scrolling. My vision blurring with tears. There were jokes. Emojis. Plans to meet for coffee. And then, I found it. The messages from 2 weeks ago, the Tuesday, he said he had to work late for an inventory check. Chloe. I can't wait to see you tonight. Noah. Me neither. I've needed this. I've needed you. Chloe. Room 412. Don't forget the wine. I felt the air leave my lungs. I had to sit down on the floor. The cold wood a shock against my skin. I put my hand over my mouth to stifle a sob. It was real. A name. A room number. A betrayal so complete. It stole my breath. I don't know how long I sat there, just rocking back and forth. The evidence was right there, glowing in my hand. I didn't wake him up. I couldn't. The next evening, I waited for him to come home. I didn't cook. I didn't turn on the TV. I just sat on the couch in the dark. When he walked in, he flipped on the light and stopped when he saw me. Hey, he said, his voice cautious. Everything okay? Who is Chloe? I asked. My voice was eerily calm. I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Surprise? Fear? But it was gone in an instant, replaced by that same weary resignation. He didn't deny it. He didn't even try. He just sighed, a long, heavy sound, and put his keys down on the counter. We need to talk. Talk? I shrieked, the calm shattering. I jumped up from the couch. You think we need to talk? I read the messages, Noah. I know about the hotel. You're a liar. A cheater. I was screaming, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to throw things. I wanted him to feel even a fraction of the pain I was feeling. He just stood there and took it. He let me scream until my throat was raw, until I was sobbing, gasping for breath. When I finally ran out of energy, he spoke. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence like a knife. Yes, he said. I've been seeing someone. Why? I sobbed. Why would you do this to us? And then he looked at me. Really looked at me, for the first time in months. And there was no love there. There was no anger. There was just a vast, empty sadness. Because with her, he said, each word a carefully placed stone, I feel wanted. I feel like a man. With her, my desire isn't something she finds desperate. He used my own word. He threw it back in my face. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about an affair. This was about revenge. A cold, quiet, devastating revenge for a single, cruel word. The world tilted on its axis. Suddenly, the narrative I had so carefully constructed for myself, the story of the stressed, neglected wife with the emotionally immature husband, was obliterated. Now, I was the wronged woman, the victim, the cheated on wife, and a sick part of me thought, good. Now people will finally see. Now they'll be on my side. The first person I called was Amelia. I sobbed down the phone, telling her everything. The messages, the hotel, the other woman's name. I waited for the wave of sympathy, for the "I can't believe he would do that to you." Instead, there was a pause. Sophie, she said, her voice hesitant. That's awful. It really is. But didn't you say you told him his affection was desperate? That you hadn't been intimate in months? I was stunned into silence. What does that have to do with anything? He cheated on me, Amelia. I know, and that's not okay, she backpedaled quickly. But I don't know. It's just messy. It was the first crack in my new victim identity. She wasn't fully on my side. She was seeing the gray areas. She was remembering all the times I had complained about the very thing I had now lost. My next call was to Leo. I needed him. I needed his unequivocal support. I needed him to tell me I was right and Noah was a monster. I texted him, my thumbs flying across the screen. He cheated on me. You were right. It was more than him being hurt. He had an affair. And his reply took longer than usual. I'm so sorry to hear that, Sophie. That's terrible. That was it. I waited. No follow-up text. No call. The next day at work, he avoided my eyes. When I cornered him by the coffee machine, he was visibly uncomfortable. I just think it's probably best if I don't get involved, he said, fiddling with his mug. It's a personal matter between you and your husband. My husband? I said, my voice rising. Leo, you're the one who told me he was manipulating me. You're the one who said I deserved better. I was just being a friend, he said, his face flushing. I think I might have overstepped. I'm sorry. He scurried back to his desk, leaving me standing there, feeling like a fool. He had been my confidant, my emotional refuge. But now that the drama was real, now that the affair was out in the open, he wanted no part of it. He had enjoyed the role of the sympathetic listener, the white knight. But he wasn't willing to get his hands dirty in the actual wreckage. I was completely, utterly alone. That night, Noah came home to pack a bag. He told me he was going to stay with his brother for a while. The sight of him pulling clothes from the closet, folding them neatly into a suitcase, it finally broke me. This was real. This was happening. Don't go, I whispered, tears welling up again. Please, we can fix this. He stopped, a t-shirt in his hand. How, Sophie? I'm sorry, I cried, the words I should have said months ago finally tumbling out. I'm so sorry for what I said. I was stressed, and I was exhausted, and I took it out on you. It was a horrible thing to say. Please, just come back. We can go to therapy. We can do anything. I was begging. I was on my knees, metaphorically. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of his old self. A deep, profound sadness. I believe that you're sorry now, he said quietly. But it's not just about that one night. It's about everything that came after. For months, I tried to be the husband you wanted, someone who could be affectionate without desire, someone polite and distant, And you hated that too. You got angry that I wasn't pursuing you anymore. He was right. I was angry that he had stopped wanting me, after I had punished him for wanting me too much. The hypocrisy of it all hit me like a physical blow. But you cheated, I blurted out, falling back on my one remaining piece of righteous anger. You still shouldn't have done that. He zipped up his suitcase, the sound echoing in the silent room. No, he said, his voice heavy. I shouldn't have. Cheating was a symptom, Sophie, a coward's way out. But the disease started long before that. The disease started when you made me feel ashamed for loving you. He picked up his bag. My lawyer will be in touch, he said, and walked out the door, closing it softly behind him, not with a slam, with a quiet, final click. 6 months later. The divorce is final. The apartment is half empty. He took the couch, the good armchair, the dining table we picked out together. The silence is the only thing that's really mine now. I do this thing, a pathetic, self-destructive ritual. I look at her social media. Chloe's. Her profile is public. She's a first-grade teacher. Her page is full of pictures of smiling children, classroom projects made of glitter and macaroni, and Noah. Noah smiling. A real, genuine smile that reaches his eyes. The kind of smile I haven't seen in over a year. There's a picture of them hiking, his arm wrapped tightly around her. He's looking at her with that look that used to be mine. The one that said, "You are the entire world." She posted a photo of them last week, clinking glasses of wine on a balcony overlooking the city. The caption read, "Feeling so incredibly loved and appreciated by this amazing man, I can't believe I'm lucky enough to be wanted like this." Wanted like this. The words are a punch to the gut. Every single time. She appreciates it. She celebrates it. She isn't just accepting the very thing I threw away. She's bragging about it. She's treasuring it. A looks good. Healthier. Happier. He's with someone who doesn't just tolerate his love, but thrives on it. Someone who doesn't call it desperate. And me? I'm here, in this empty apartment, scrolling through the evidence of my own failure. I understand now. I do. I see it all so clearly. I had a man who adored me, who desired me after years of marriage, and I took that devotion for granted. It was a constant, steady flame, and I got annoyed that it was too hot, so I dumped a bucket of ice water on it. And then I was shocked when it went out. I was selfish, ungrateful. I expected him to be a mind reader, to intuit the exact type of affection I needed at any given moment, without me ever having to communicate it with kindness. I broke his heart, yes, but I think, more than that, I broke his spirit. I shamed him for the most natural, masculine part of his love for me. And calling someone's love disgusting, calling their desire desperate, you don't just come back from that. It's a bell you can't unring. I know I messed up. I know it's my fault we're not together. I'm the one who laid the first stone of that wall between us. But even now, as I sit here in the ruins of my own making, a small, stubborn, bitter part of me still thinks he gave up too easily. A part of me still thinks that if he really, truly loved me, he would have fought harder. He would have yelled. He would have argued. He would have tried to break through my anger instead of just accepting it. He shouldn't have just shut down. He shouldn't have run so easily into the arms of someone else. Real love, epic love, is supposed to survive things like that, isn't it? And that's probably why I'm sitting here alone. Because even after losing everything, a part of me still doesn't really get it. I still think love is something you're owed, not something you have to earn and protect every single day. Some lessons, I guess, you only learn when it's far too late to matter.